it.
Let's start over.
All right, here we go.
You gotta do a 3, 2, 1 on me. You can't just not 3, 2, 1 me.
You're gonna not 3, 2, 1 me? You're gonna not at least 3, 2, 1 me?
Bro, are you even a director?
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, 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 boom! Boy Phil! What's up, guys?
Hello there again. We want to make another video.
We have awesome new art.
Check it out, Voidfill art.
Check it all out. Got a
It
little
is-
new alteration.
It is the essence of the Voidfill.
Guys, we're going to come to you every single edition with more and more content. We're going to build this channel, and I hope you come and you grow here with us.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and the more we grow, hopefully the more people can throw out ideas and feedback, and then we get ideas from other people, and then it's just a giant learning experience for everybody.
If there's ever a topic that you guys want us to discuss or want us to get a deep dive into, we'll do a week's worth of research. We'll dig really deep into the topic, and we'll discuss it. So bring it down in the comments. Talk to us about that if you want.
So today we are going to talk about the idea of the Jungian archetypes.
What are archetypes? You might ask.
So yeah, before we get to the actual meaning of the archetype, Will, how would you define an archetype?
Okay, so an archetype, the way I would philosophically feel about an archetype is it is a characteristic, a trait that is in essence it's in a static state. It doesn't really change. So characteristics of the universe that are in a static state. And those characteristics of the universe, the very simple basic core, the very, very nature of the universe is embedded with these characteristics, these archetypes. And each characteristic is akin to a trait. So it could be the loving mother. It could be the father. It could be the wise old man. It could be the wise old woman. It could be like a devil or a mischievous archetype or a magician type archetype. Or it could be like the alien UFO abduction. Like all these types of archetypes that people have experienced in these out-of-body states might just be archetypes that you're seeing in a state that you're in your life. And when you go through these states, you might just be seeing some archetype. And I'm kind of going a little further down the road that we want to go, but I just feel like they're states of the universe that exist within a character base.
Okay. Maybe maybe this, what you're talking about at a deeper level is people like Jung, the famous psychologist, realizing and picking up on those patterns. It's like like humans, when they learn about sacred geometry, they're picking up on these things. And if archetypes are that deep, then perhaps we are we're finally being able to put into words in writing what this idea is that is so omnipresent and dominating. Understanding personality, the 12 Jungian archetypes. So according to Jung, the famous psychologist, and what the archetype is it stems from the name, the word archetype means original pattern in ancient Greek. And Jung used the concept of archetype in his theory of the human psyche. He identified 12 universal mythic characters, archetypes, which reside within our collective consciousness. Jung defined 12 primary types that represent the range of basic human motivations. Each of us tends to have one dominant archetype that dominates our personality.
What archetype do you think you identify with the most?
Well, I think first we should start with just talking about all of them,
For sure.
in general. The first archetype I want to bring up is okay, so let me rewind a little bit. So Jung separated the 12 archetypes into groups of three. One of the groups of four. One of the groups are the ego types, the second type is the soul types, and the third type is the self type. So this is all Jungian psychology. Keep that in mind. So the ego, the soul, and the self. These are the three categories that the other ones fall into. So we'll start with the ego types. And number one, the innocent.
I think it's a good place to start.
So the innocent, and this web page I have to use as just a bit of an example. Again, it's not an ultimate, but the innocent, the motto is free to be you and me, core desire to get to paradise, goal to be happy, greatest fear to be punished for doing something bad or wrong, strategy to do things right. Can you think of any examples of what would be the innocent, or otherwise known as the traditionalist, the naive,
Oh
the
yeah,
romantic, the dreamer?
yeah, definitely. The innocent person is that beginner stage of the hero's journey. It's that first. It's when you just become a teenager, and you don't really know anything about the world, and you're just experiencing the world. It could even be before being a teenager. You know what I mean? But it's those people who are just going out there day to day without really seeing anything beyond just what they see.
Right. And I thought it'd be a good idea to bring up some pop culture references for people to get an idea, because um, I don't know if the viewers or the listeners know about the idea of the hero's journey, but 99.9% of Hollywood movies follow this template called the hero's journey, which could be talked about on another episode. But there's
No,
this basic, there's this.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to talk about it in this episode during archetypes, because the archetypes are the hero's journey.
That's true. You make a good point. You see the different types of archetypes in a single movie because of the hero's journey. Uh, but the hero's journey is a template where, and I'm putting this into a crude paraphrase, is you have your hero that starts off with your main character, the hero, and then the hero goes through a loop. It's a journey. So it goes through this process of figuring out the mission, what has to be done, and then it goes through hardship, and then it discovers the character that helps it in a way, and then it gets back motivation, and then it comes back and beats the bad guy.
Right.
And then so that's in Hollywood. That's a crude explanation.
That's a very crude explanation,
Yeah.
and there's always that help from without, or that magical help at the end that somehow gets you through the darkness or whatever.
But before we go off on that rant about that, I want to bring up a really good example of the archetype of the innocent.
Sure.
And that is Forrest Gump.
That's perfect.
Forrest Gump is the classic example of the innocent, because think about Forrest Gump. The entire movie, he is just a very simple-minded person, and he has very simple motivations, and he's always trying to do the right thing. And I mean, yeah, Forrest Gump.
That's perfect. That's perfect example.
All right. The next archetype, I should say, is the orphan, or the regular guy or gal, the everyday person. So a good example of this would be your average Joe. Or Ron Weasley from Harry Potter.
Definitely Ron Weasley.
Ron Weasley is, he's like that side character of, he's just average. He's the average wizard. He's nothing special.
He's just like any other person.
Ron Weasley. Oh man, I'm trying to think of another example of, or just the idea of like the random passerby, or you know, when you're playing a game, you know, like
Well,
an
let's just
NPC,
an NPC or a basic bitch.
a basic pitch. That's such a good modern. Um,
That's
That's such a good modern interpretation of that. That's actually really funny.
so I think we got every person down.
Okay, and the next one is the hero. The hero is probably, in my opinion, the most common archetype in pop culture.
Most
Um,
definitely. I
you know,
mean, we were talking about Hollywood before, and the hero follows that generic Hollywood script.
right,
Aladdin,
the hero's journey, the traditional script.
Aladdin, Simba, Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker, Superman.
Even you and me are the heroes of their own journey, and Scarface was the hero of his own journey.
Scarface, though, I would say is more like the ruler.
But the hero is an archetype that surpasses all the other archetypes. It's the hero. Every single villain and every person who exists always believes they're the hero of their own journey. So the hero is the only one of those archetypes that's like the zero element. It is within every single one of those
Oh, I
other.
see what you're saying. Okay.
Right, the hero exists within every other one of those archetypes. It's the only archetype that exists within all the other archetypes.
Interesting. So it's the base foundation to all of the other of archetypes is what you're saying.
Right. It's all the hero, and every single thing is just another shade of hero.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Right.
The next one we have is the caregiver.
Oh yeah, the caregiver. That's the archetype that I see a lot in the out of body experience or the DMT experience.
The caregiver. Yeah, no. If that was, I shouldn't say if there was an archetype, that was it. That was the only archetype that I pretty much experienced within my first and only heavy DMT trip. And the caregiver is your character. I like to think of Nurse Joy in Pokemon.
Nurse Joy. Definitely Nurse Joy.
You know, Nurse Joy is always there. It's like no matter how battered and bruised you are, if you get to Nurse Joy, you're going to be okay.
Mother Nature.
Mother Nature. Mother Earth herself.
Gaia.
Also known as the saint or the altruist, the parent, the helper, the supporter.
Your guardian angels.
Your guardian angels.
Yeah, so the caregiver is a very important archetype. It's the archetype that holds it together. It holds the entire universe together.
Oh, another good example of the caregiver is Obi-Wan from Star Wars.
Obi-Wan is a perfect example. And I think also, well, maybe Qui-Gon would be more a sage than Obi-Wan, but I think Qui-Gon's also a caregiver.
Maybe Jedi in general just follow that caregiver archetype.
Right, yes, Jedi in general. But I feel that the caregiver is completely opposite to the ruler. The ruler is exactly opposite from the caregiver. The ruler wants to demand and coerce. But I don't know what order that you want to go on to next, but the ruler, I think, is a good one to go after the caregiver.
Well, then we can just talk about the ruler right now.
So the ruler, I think, is also an archetype that comes up in out-of-body experiences quite often. And it's that feeling that you are being controlled, or that this feeling of just that you have come up, like there's something above you that's ruling you. And the ruler archetype is the perfect example I can get out of that is the government. that would be first and perfect example of the ruler.
I agree. That's a perfect example of, yeah, absolutely. Because the
then the
government, yeah, of course, is a massive entity itself.
and then the laws of physics.
The laws of physics.
They're a ruler.
So, and of course, a famous pop culture reference would be, any character like a king or a politician, somebody in a movie whose greatest fear is to lose control or be overthrown.
Right. That right.
These are examples of the ruler. And I think of Queen Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Most definitely.
I think of Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. But those are two examples of evil, or quote unquote evil. I guess Emperor Palpatine, you can say, is evil. Is Queen Cersei evil? I don't know. She does some pretty shitty things, but Anyway, that's besides the point.
Right.
The ruler is, that's as classic, almost not as classic as the hero, because the hero, like you said, is everything. But the ruler is up there. So the next one I want to talk about is the explorer. Their core desire is the freedom to find out who you are through exploring the world. And their goal is to experience a better, more authentic, more fulfilling life, I think. And one of their biggest fears would be, getting trapped, conformity, maybe staying still for too long a period of time.
Yeah, so the explorer is one that happens in the midst of the hero's life. The hero has to explore and to understand more of his world or her world, and just, try to get to that end goal of really just being able to rebel against the ruler.
I found a good example, I think, of an explorer in a not so obvious way. Tommy Pickles. If you remember Rugrats, Tommy Pickles would always be the one to take charge and be like, all right, we're gonna go into the unknown and see what happens.
Grab onto your diapers, babies, because we're going in.
Exactly. And I think of Captain Kirk from Star Trek.
Most definitely.
The explorer. And you know what? I think I wanted to bring this up, a real life example of the explorer archetype. May he rest in peace, was Anthony Bourdain. This was a guy who traveled all around the world, and his career started as a chef and cooking, but then he quickly, not quickly, but he turned into more studying cultures around the world, and he was constantly going around the world and allowing his viewers to see. He was allowing his viewers to explore through him. So, I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, that's great.
The next archetype is the rebel. Rules are made to be broken.
That's the archetype that I think that when I asked you what archetype do you think you identify with the most, that was the exact archetype I was thinking about.
That would be the obvious choice, but I don't consider myself a rebel because all I want to do is know the truth.
That's true.
If the authority over me was for good, what are you comparing that to? The rebel, breaking the rules. Whose fucking rules? So, I think that, most people would look at me and say, oh yeah, he's the rebel for sure. But that's only comparing that to what rules? The rules, certain people made. But I just want to know the truth. So,
no, that's not rebellion at all. I totally understand your defense there.
And I want to talk about Jack Sparrow, Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Nice.
That is, I think, the epitome of the rebel archetype.
Yeah, without a doubt. always rebelling against everything that ever stood against him, whether it be the just general order of the government or whether it be his own people trying to freaking go against him. He wants to rebel against anyone. He's doing his own thing. He wants to get drunk on an island. Jack Sparrow's getting drunk on an island.
You know what? Now that I think about it, is Jack Sparrow a rebel or is he the jester?
He might be a jester rebel.
Because when I think of rebel, I think of Han Solo.
Han Solo's a rebel for sure. That's a better
example as the rebel.
Yeah, I think that Jack Sparrow's like a mix of archetypes for sure.
Or what about like an old Clint Eastwood Western character? The rebel, the outlaw.
The outlaw, yeah.
You know, the bad boy.
Right.
The bad boy that all the girls fall for. There's something sexy about being the rebel.
It's true. It's true. I think I'm going to pay any mind to you. I only pay a mind to me. You know who's a rebel, though? Even though he was also kind of a bad guy, I guess, in the sense that he's a ruler, Scarface was a rebel.
Yes, Tony Montana was a rebel.
Right, because even he fucked over Sosa, who said, "Don't you ever fuck me over, Tony. Don't you ever fuck me over." But then he trusted himself and knew that the right thing to do was to not kill and hurt those people.
That's right.
He trusted himself and knew that was the right thing. Went out with like a real person.
I guess there's multiple. I guess there's multiple archetypes in the Scarface character.
Right, there is. That's why the hero is the base archetype, but the 12 archetypes is something that you really do go throughout your entire life. And
interesting.
At any given time, at any given moment, you are fulfilling one of the 12 archetypes.
You know, maybe I would have to agree with that. And the next archetype I want to talk about is, you know, a very deep and emotional archetype, the lover.
Right. And I think
their core desire is intimacy and experience. Their fear is being alone.
Being alone, that's a good one. Yeah. So the lover card, I think, you know, a lot of people obviously relate to the lover card. It's a card that interconnects all of us. It's one of the core archetypes that it connects all of the other archetypes together in the drama. It really connects everything together.
But I don't want to. The lover can also mean it's not just like, you know, a mad romantic thing. No. But the lover is also known as the partner, the friend, the enthusiast, the sensualist, the spouse, the team builder. I think of a great example of the lover in pop culture is Samwise Gamgee.
Interesting. Okay.
He's always there, no matter what, you know. Unconditional love for his friend. What do you think about Samwise Gamgee?
I want to bring up another example. I think Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic is an example of the lover.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Able to sacrifice everything for a person. Like Samwise.
Like Sam did.
Right.
I would argue Sam loved Frodo more than Jack loved, what's her name?
Rose.
Sam and Frodo's real love. Jack and Rose.
I think that's relative. But I just want to pick up another one. Why you ask me?
Yeah, she let him fall. Anyway, what about...
She let him fall.
What about Sam from Game of Thrones?
Sam of Game of Thrones. What'd you say about him?
Jon Snow's best friend, Sam.
Do you think he's a lover?
I think he's a lover archetype.
I honestly don't remember him enough to judge it.
Oh, yes, you do. He's always given John advice. He sucks at fighting.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, for
And
sure.
he's very smart, but he's always there no matter what. He's very loyal. I just thought that was a good example of the
That's a
lover.
good example. But I think the general for the archetypes, the lover is a very important archetype in the sense that it connects all the other archetypes.
The next archetype is the creator, otherwise known as the artist or inventor or innovator. The creator.
Yeah,
So
the creator also is akin to the magician card in different tarot cards.
the
Tarot,
magician is its own separate archetype, technically, but I mean, you're right. Like as a master of magic or whatever, what have you.
no, but in the tarot deck, the creator is the magician, and it brings everything out after it brings the original first card in, which is the Fool. The
Oh,
Fool is just
I
like
have no idea about how to do tarot or tarot.
the tarot actually falls right into the archetypes of these. The tarot deck is a very a much more granular version of these archetypes, and it gets into more of the specifics of each archetype. And actually, the astrology, like the different astrology, like Cancer, Gemini, Aries, all those different astrology is also correlated with the 12 archetypes in the different the signs that exist. So the tarot deck is just built off the same thing, the different archetypes that exist.
Interesting. I think of a real life creator as Nikola Tesla.
Ooh, that's a good one. Can't even beat that. Nope. That's too good of one.
But is he also the magician? Which we'll
He's
get
also,
to.
no, he's also a magician for sure. Because, an inventor who's using their imagination is bringing something out of nothing, right? You're taking something that's in your head and you're turning it into a physical object and making it something that exists. So in a sense, it's a mage, but you're also a creator. These these archetypes, they're interconnected. They're not just like you're not just only the creator or the sage
Right.
they're like different weights, and you're a weight 0 to 100 of any archetype at any given moment.
Oh man.
You're in a percentage of each one at any given moment. That's who you are in that moment.
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What about Tony Stark?
Ooh, definitely the creator, definitely the sage, definitely the jester and the lover and an alchemist, the hero. He's somewhat the ruler because he's kind of ruling over these people with his technology and his brands that exist.
And that rolls us into the next one, the jester. And I think I meant to say that Captain Jack Sparrow is more of the jester, not the rebel. I think of him more as a jester. The fool, the trickster, the joker, the comedian. Kind of just like I think of who owns the chocolate factory in Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka does.
It's Willy Wonka. Duh. It's Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. I think of Willy Wonka. Like, that guy is totally a jester.
Oh, he's so much a jester, but he's also an alchemist, also a lover, also sort of innocent, also an explorer. He explores different types of sweets and different types of sensory outputs. He's also a caregiver in the sense that he wants to care about people and he cares about people's happiness. He's also creating new things.
I'm about to give you the ultimate example of jester. Are you ready for this one?
Do it.
Bugs Bunny.
Oh. I want to go with the better jester. Cartman.
Cartman? Nah, maybe. I could see it.
He's the jester. But man,
Eric Cartman?
But man,
What the hell is Eric Cartman?
Eric Cartman is the goddamn jester mixed with the rebel.
Man, I thought I had you with Bugs Bunny.
No, Bugs Bunny is a jester for sure.
So the next one is the Sage. And I think of like Morpheus from The Matrix.
Right. That's a good one. Or Terrence McKenna.
I would say he's more of the explorer.
Oh, that's good. Maybe he's an explorer mixed with the sage.
Yeah, like you said, it's a mixture. It's not just one perfect, neat little fit.
No, but I know what
And
you mean. Like, if you want to go through like just Hollywood, Morpheus is good.
right, yeah, I was trying to give a pop culture examples just to kind of give people a rough,
No, it's perfect.
idea.
It's perfect.
Because and somebody who is very wise and wants to know the truth. Somebody who wants to know the truth, who's very wise, and I think of Yoda from Star Wars too.
Okay, thinking of an actual person, I want to say Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. Oh man, that's a really good example of the sage.
Also Einstein.
Albert Einstein.
Einstein.
That's how it's pronounced.
Einstein.
Einstein.
Okay. I like it better.
How easily do we forget that little tidbit? But the sage, I think their biggest fear is being duped or misled or ignorance. And their weakness is that they can study the details forever and never act. Also known as the
Definitely.
expert, the scholar, the detective, the advisor, the thinker, the philosopher. So,
I identify with the sage as the most, just in general. Not saying I'm like an expert of really like anything, but just in general, the magician card pops up for me for the tarot deck a lot. And I've always been into technology, like learning more about learning itself, like learning about learning. And I think that that's where a sage is like someone who's learning about learning, like how to learn even faster.
right. And that's a good segue into the last one, the magician, which their core desire is to understand the fundamental laws of the universe. Their motto could be said that I make things happen.
Oh, I like that.
Their strategy could be to develop a vision and live by it.
Wow.
Their talent is finding win-win solutions. The magician
That,
can be interpreted as so many things, like, yes, Nikola Tesla was the creator, but he was also the magician because he tapped into the fundamental forces of the universe, electricity, and, figured out how to, he bypassed, decades of progress. And in order to do that, you kind of have to be a magician if you, in a way, like, because magic is just simply science not understood. If you saw something like you saw somebody, like Dragon Ball Z, like boom, put a fireball out of their hand, charge up a fireball and shoot it. Like you'd be like, the average person would say, that's magic. Is it magic or is it just physics and science and chemistry that you just don't
right.
understand? So you call it magic.
Like UFOs.
UFOs. I also really quick wanted to talk about good examples of archetypes. So maybe to get more people our own age interested in this thing, maybe they think this whole idea of Jungian psychology is boring. They need to take into effect that if you've ever played an RPG or any game that has to do with a class ever in your life, you have used the idea of archetypes.
Hey, you have the maid.
I can't help but think of what you're gonna say. Your classic three: the mage, the rogue, and the warrior. And then you have from those three, you have all these all the things that kind of branch off from that, all the other
We got the
classes.
healer.
And the healer, the caregiver.
Right.
The healer's the caregiver. The mage would be the magician and the sage. The warrior would be, what is the warrior?
The warrior's the hero.
The hero.
Right. He's the base hero.
The hero and the ruler.
Right. He's the base hero and he's the ruler because he runs the show.
And like the rogue would be the trickster.
The trickster also could be a sage of some sort.
You're right. I'm trying to think of another.
Could also be the ruler. The rogue could also be the ruler because they dominate things through the shadows.
So this idea of archetypes is so omnipresent within cultural and mythological history, and like you said, it definitely ties to the astrological signs.
Yeah, I mean, you can't escape the base archetypes. Everywhere you go in the universe, whether it be the colors in the damn rainbow, or it be the amount of chords there are or keys there are, you're going to always have the base archetypes. There's really a base amount of archetypes. Like he's saying, isn't there 4 base archetypes?
No, the 12 base, the 12, let me rewind. The base archetypes, again, according to Jungian psychology, is 12. There's 12 base archetypes.
There's 4 major archetypes to emerge that are the self, the shadow, and then the anima and the animus.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So these are important to talk about. We're going to talk about Jungian archetypes. The self, which is the hero. The shadow could be like essentially like the ego, or the ultimate ruler, the dominator, the one that controls all of everything, the one that you don't want to let out. And then there's the anima and the animus. And if you're a male at any time, you have an anima, and that's the female version of you. And if you're a female, you have an animus, and that's the male side of you that you're always trying to repress. And from these 4 categorical major archetypes emerge the other archetypes.
Right. The anima and the animus being part of Jung's theory of the collective unconscious.
Right. And that's a super important thing. And that's what creates all these other flavors, you want to say. Like,
okay.
Right. So it's almost like when you take colors and you mix them with other colors, right, and they turn into more colors. This is what it is. Like, there's only 4 elements that exist. There's 4.
What you just said about like when you take colors that make other colors, I can't help but think like all our entire lives when you're playing video games, the tank or the warrior is red, the mage or the wizard's blue, and the rogue or the hunter or whatever is green. And it's literally and all the other classes are just a mixture of all those 3.
Right. And then you get these other classes, and then you can keep building upon it, but they're always going to have a root type.
Right. So yeah, like I'm glad you brought that up. That goes even deeper than just the idea of the 12 personality types or the 12 archetypes. Mm-hmm. That's an even deeper aspect of the psychology behind it.
Yeah, and we're going to leave a lot of links in the descriptions. There's a lot more that goes into this. We're kind of just scratching the surface at this point.
Oh yeah.
Kind of get it. Give you guys a taste of what the archetypes are, because once you start going down all the archetypes, you might see things in yourself that you can relate with in those archetypes. And just in general, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of psychology. There's been a lot of education that's gone into this stuff, even generations before us.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of good, credible information out there if you want to look into it yourself. A lot of quality, academic work about this stuff that if you want to get into the nitty
There's
gritty about it.
books. If you want to read books, you can read books for probably the next 10 years about archetypes. But they're very important, and reason why I want to bring on the void fill is that we want to show how the universe has kind of like a story or a drama element to it. It's very much staged, and it's very much a show. And it's something that, you know, there's a lot of things that we kind of take things for granted, and we make things so real, and we take things so deeply that we forget that we're kind of just here watching the universe happen. And that's all that is expected out of us, is to just be and to watch the show play out. The cards are going to happen the way they happen. The archetypes are going to play out the way they're going to play out.
In terms of the grand aspect of the universe, that does not mean, you know, just sit back and don't take control of your life here on Earth.
You're
Right.
You're gonna do what you feel is right, and in that sense, you're gonna fulfill the archetype.
All right. With that, I think we can leave it off, and it's been fun.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This has been a void fill on archetypes.
Void fill on archetypes. Void fill.